Do 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 do. Left of the box.
Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. I'm going to start talking about something, and some of you may be thinking, wait a minute, that has nothing to do with the title. Like, is this a trick or clickbait? Like, what are you getting at here? I assure you, everything I'm about to talk about is tied together. Frodo's sibling Tulip passed away a few months ago. I have a video about that on my channel you can go check out later. I felt the time was right to bring new fur babies into our family. I was gifted the money to do so. My last video is about the two little kittens I adopted. Their names are Abernathy and Lanier. I just want to say thank you so much to the person who saw that video and got me the cat tree from my Amazon wish list. They love it, and it was a very, very generous thing for you to do. Again, just thank you so much. They are kittens and can be a bit of a handful. Note the use of my lavalier mic. This here was the cable to my mic. Yeah, one of them decided to use it as a chew toy, unfortunately. Luckily, though, this cable, it's just the cable itself, and it can be replaced. Despite the chaos and everything they've broken, they are wonderful little kitties, and I love them to pieces. Things were going good. My home was feeling complete with the addition of these new little kitties. Then I noticed Frodo had lost a lot of weight. And it took me a little bit to notice because with the new additions to the family, it's harder to monitor how much each individual one is eating. And then I realized that I hadn't actually seen him eat in a while. And it was also tricky because Frodo's behavior was normal. He wasn't acting any different. He still had lots of energy, walking around, doing everything that he normally did. So it was hard for me to tell something was wrong. So I quarantined him one night in my bedroom with me to monitor how much he was eating, to realize he wasn't eating anything at all, and I had to rush him to the vet. They did blood work. I also had them test for pancreatitis. That's not something that's normally included in blood tests for cats, but he has had it before, and I suspected that it was the same, as he was acting very similar to when he had it before. He had to spend 2 days in the hospital getting fluids, antibiotics, nutrients, just to help him out. He was very dehydrated. The blood results came back, and the regular blood tests, everything is normal. He does have a touch of pancreatitis. So I was given medications to start treating that, and he started to eat a little, like just a tiny, tiny bit. Then he stopped again, and he developed a fever. So I had to rush him back into the vet. And this time they took an x-ray. And again, the results of the x-ray, everything looks normal. He has slightly enlarged kidneys, but other than that, everything looked fine. They also gave him some more fluids, and it was just a matter of waiting to see how things would turn out. I was left in the position of taking him home again for the weekend, unsure of what would happen, but if he had stopped eating again, the next step would be for me to take him in for an ultrasound. I also am waiting on the results. Back when he went in for the x-ray, they did a blood smear panel, and I'm waiting for the results on that. But had things turned completely again, I would have taken him back in for an ultrasound to see if there's something that can be treated right away. They suspect there's something wrong. If there's something wrong, it's in the kidneys. Fortunately, he has started to eat again. Not as much as I would like, but he's eating a notable amount. I want to have hope that he's okay, but cats have a very, very annoying habit of seeming like everything is okay and then taking a complete dive in their health. And it's only been a couple days since he's started to eat again. And like I said, I'm still waiting on the results of the blood panel, so I still don't know what is wrong with him. That maybe it was just the pancreatitis and it was taking a while for the meds to kick in, given his age. But I am still worried, and there is a chance that there's going to be more vet expenses to come if his health takes a dive again. I've been spending a lot on him, money I don't have. And that's because I cannot lose him right now. I've had lots of cats in my life. I used to volunteer with the cat rescue, and at one point I did have too many cats. But with all of them, when their time came, as much as I wanted them to stay in my life forever, I accepted it. I knew it was their time, and I was at peace with it. I'm not there with him. If whatever he has is fixable, I need to fix it. It might just be the autism in me, but I have never felt loved by a person. I'm very good at decoding emotions between people, what they're feeling and stuff. But whenever it's emotion directed towards me, I cannot pick up on it. I don't feel it. So often I just take people at their word when they say they care about me. But with cats, I actually feel loved. And with Frodo, we have a very special bond because he's been the only cat where it was just me and him for quite some time. Before I got him his sister Tulip, it was just me and him for about a year and a half, 2 years. And he makes me feel loved. Every night when I go to bed, he likes to cuddle with me. Every morning when I wake up, he's there for me. You know, if what he has passes, it was just an infection or the pancreatitis or something, one thing the results are telling me is he's still very, very healthy, and he should have lots more years of life left. I want to say, I keep on saying that he's going to live till he's 30. I know that's unrealistic, but I know the x-rays, they don't pick up everything, so horrors to be, it could be bone cancer or something. I don't know, which is why I still haven't ruled out taking him in for the ultrasound should things start to deteriorate again. I am fortunate I have the room on my credit card to put this on. You see, going into debt is an actual trigger for me, and some people might think, oh, well, that's a good thing, because it will keep you out of debt. And true, it has done that. But I have a history of when I first got a credit card in my early 20s and overspending on that and getting in debt with the student loans I had and the experiences of the collection agencies just hounding me, calling me when I was living in a shelter, tracking me down wherever I lived. My bank at one time just cleared out my account without any warning, even though the money I was receiving was Ontario disability, and they know better than to touch that, but just randomly they took it all out, so then I had to fight to get that back. And so having a debt loom over me is an actual trigger, and it can cause me to spiral really fast, which is why I currently don't have any debt. I am going into debt to keep Frodo healthy, and this is the first time going into debt. I'm at peace with it. Even if I have to spend the rest of my life paying it off, I will, because if there's anything I can do to keep him in my life longer, I will do it. I know at some point I'm going to have to let him go. I know that, he won't be around forever. All I know is that it can't be now. I don't know when that time will be. I just know it can't be now. The vet had to reassure me, and other people have had to reassure me that, getting the kittens had nothing to do with his health condition. And a part of me believes it, because, again, he's had pancreatitis before. The symptoms he has doesn't correlate to stress and things of that sort. But part of me now is almost worried that I'm going to regret getting them, because maybe if I didn't get them, I would have noticed he had stopped eating sooner. Or maybe it was something to do with them that caused it. And part of me is even wondering if I should return them for a bit to see if he will get back to normal. Because losing him is just so difficult to contemplate right now, even though I love the two little kittens to pieces. So I'm still having just to try to force myself to stay in the rational mind, knowing, convincing myself they had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with it. A little while ago, I was hit up with a few bills all at the same time. They also had to do with the vet. The cost of putting Tulip to sleep. My car broke down that same weekend, or same day. Frodo also went into the vet because of a possible eye infection. And I had to turn to mutual aid for help. And I'm again in that place where I have to ask for help. And I hate being in this place. I don't want to be here. But despite the already very generous donations I've gotten to help cover the cost of his vet bills, I'm still short about $1,300. And that's providing I don't have to take him back in for anything else. If you have money to spare, and please, only if you have it to spare. I don't want anyone sacrificing, money they need to help me out. Only if you have the money to spare. I've linked to my PayPal account below. If you're Canadian, you can send an e-transfer to SandeeLovas@gmail.com. If neither of those are an option and you would still like to help, on my Amazon wish list, I've started to add things like cat food, cat litter, consumables that I need that, if somebody else gets them for me, then that's one less thing that I have to buy out of pocket. And if you can't do any of that but would still like to help, just share the message. Retweet my tweets about it. On Blue Sky, I'm talking about it. If you know anyone who's interested in a pet portrait or a portrait of a person, my artwork, I'm still trying to get that off the ground. Anyone buying a portrait for me would also really help, just for me to cover the cost of this. And later in the week, I'm thinking maybe Friday or Saturday, I'm going to be doing my first live stream, kind of as like a fundraiser for Frodo. I don't have a second webcam yet, and that's what I was kind of waiting for in order to do this. But I think I found enough workarounds that I don't need that, and I can still bring people on. As a way of showing my gratitude, between now and the end of my live stream, if I'm able to cover all of his bills, for every $150 above that, I will do a portrait for somebody living with poverty at no charge to them. Basically, that $150 will just cover the cost of supplies, it getting digitized, a frame, shipping, all of that, so that somebody living with poverty can have a wonderful portrait of a loved one. I don't have much that I can do to show my gratitude, to thank people, but this is something I can do, and I want to. To tie this back into the title, The Horrors of the American Healthcare System Coming to Canada. Whenever I have to go to the vet and I'm confronted with these bills, or having to pick and choose what tests to do, and just the overwhelming expense of it, I'm reminded of the American healthcare system and the fact that there's people having to go through this for their own health or the health of their loved ones, only instead of thousands of dollars, it's tens of thousands or more. Having to choose what test to do, hoping that the first one you choose is the one that will tell you what's wrong at least, hoping that whatever it is, if it can be fixed, that it doesn't take much, that maybe it's just antibiotics, or the thought of having to do surgery and having to weigh if you can afford it or try to figure out if you can live without it. And all of this, the thought that you find out you have something that can be cured, but then you don't have the money to get the treatment for it, is so barbaric. It is violence from the state having to put us through this when the money is there. We shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to go through this. Not for our pets, not for people, no one. We should be getting enough income through work, or if you're on disability, to be able to afford things like this. Healthcare should be completely universal, because up here in Canada we say, oh well, at least healthcare is free. No, it's not. It's getting worse, and it's costing us our lives. If there is one thing my channel can accomplish, it would be to wake Canadians up to what is happening to our healthcare system. Estimated 11,000 Ontarians died waiting for surgery scans in the past year. In just 1 year. Only 56% of patients who need CT scans and 35% of patients who need MRIs receive them within their target time. The surgical waitlist in Ontario surpasses 200,000 people. This comes from the back of a 21-page report from CUPE's Ontario Council of Hospital Unions that found hospital staff vacancies have grown dramatically, increasing 19% over the last year, and currently 37,000 positions remain unfilled. We are one of the wealthiest jurisdictions in the world, and we can afford and we have moral responsibility to provide quality care to the people of this province, said the president of the Ontario Council of Hospital Unions. CUPE's Ontario Council of Hospital Unions is calling on the Ford government to make significant investments before it's too late. Their new research report shares the stark consequences of the long waits, as more than 2,000 people died on waiting lists for surgeries last year, and up almost 50% from the year before. Another 9,400 patients died waiting for MRIs and CT scans. I will acknowledge, not everyone who didn't get their scan, who didn't get their surgery, would have survived. Some of them would have been diagnosed with something terminal. But I guarantee you, within that 11,000, there were thousands and thousands of people who could have been saved had they received the diagnosis and gotten the surgeries and the treatment they needed. And for the people who had terminal cases, they were robbed of the chance of choosing how to spend the last days of their life. They were using them to fight to find out what was wrong with them, instead of choosing to spend it with loved ones, knowing that their time was coming to an end. This is not okay. And it's getting worse, and I just want to scream it out to the people of this province, to the people across Canada. It is getting worse. We have the money to improve our healthcare system. It's there, but the conservative governments are choosing to underfund it, to make us so desperate we're open to private options. The Liberal government is no better. From this article, Ford government allocating $21 billion less to fund healthcare hospital capacity to shrink. The Financial Accountability Office of Ontario, FAO, is out with a scathing report calling the Ford government healthcare spending, revealing that hospital capacity will considerably diminish by 2027 to 2028 due to surging demand, and the province is allocating over $21 billion less to the sector. Regarding hospital capacity, the FAO mentioned that given the forecasted $21.3 billion health sector funding shortfall, the province had not allocated sufficient funding to ensure additional 4,500 hospital beds. even if the province achieves its plan to increase available hospital capacity by 7,000 beds by 2027-28, the FAO projects that Ontario will still be 500 beds short of the estimated 7,500 beds needed just to serve the growth in demand for hospital services from Ontario's growing and aging population, the document stated. The FAO also found that there were 145 unplanned emergency department closures in the province in 2022, adding that the Ford government is not doing enough to fix the problem. According to the report, there are more than 200,000 surgeries on Ontario's backlog list, including nearly 12,000 children awaiting procedures. Of the 250,000 patients on the surgery waitlist, 107,000, 43%, were waiting longer than the maximum clinical guidelines for their surgery, referred to by the ministers as long waiters, up from an average of 38,000, 20%, before the COVID-19 pandemic. As part of its reformed effort, the Ford government has tabled legislation that will see more cataract surgeries performed in private clinics. It's also creating new surgical system for hip and knee replacement procedures to be done in private clinics. Premier Ford has said patients will not have to pay for services, but critics have warned of upselling by private clinics. Private clinics are not the answer to our struggles. It has been done by design. The Conservative government has purposely been underfunding it to make it so that this seems like a more appealing choice that we could get seen sooner, because that is where a lot of our money for what is supposed to be going into our universal healthcare system is going towards funding these private clinics. All it does is allow certain people who can afford to get the extra expenses go to these clinics to get scans, tests, surgeries done, and it bleeds away doctors and nurses from the public system into that, making wait lists even longer in the public sector. People tend to forget there were scans, there were tests, blood work that people used to be able to get for free that is no longer covered. And it keeps on getting worse, and people aren't waking up to it, because the only people who really benefit from these cuts in our healthcare system are people who are, generally speaking, healthy. Yeah, sure, it's easy enough if you have a virus to go to your family doctor if you have one. It's almost impossible to find one if you don't. But if you have one, yeah, sure, you can go there, you can get diagnosed, you can get your medication and all that, and most of it is free other than medication, which is cheaper than in the States, but can still be very expensive. Yeah, it's great if that's your situation, but if you have chronic health problems, if you have a mystery illness that you're trying to get diagnosed, that you need an MRI or a CT scan, it can take years to find out what is wrong. And those are years a lot of people don't have to wait. We know the solutions to these problems. We know how to fix this. But politicians in the 1% want to stay in the pockets of the 0.1% and maintain their status quo. They need us to suffer, so we're desperate enough to fight over the pennies they toss our way. They want us to believe that if we just follow the rules, we'll be fine. That if someone falls, it's their fault for not doing what they were told. Because if we just do what we're told and we work these hours, we work the jobs that we're given, we'll be fine. But we're not. And if we can't contribute to the status quo the way that they want us to, then they convince everyone that we're disposable and burdens to society. They have made a system impossible for us to break out of through regular compliance, and yet have convinced us that if we just do it, that if we just continue to do what they say, that we'll be someday part of that magical 10% where we'll be fine financially and be able to have all the things that we want. We're missing so much in life, working not so that we can be happy, but to keep making the rich richer. We work to give other people the life of luxury we'll never see. Our lives belong to us. The work we put out should benefit our quality of life. How many people need to die before we wake up to what is happening? It's times like this that is like, I wish my channel was one of those massively wild, popular ones just so that I could get this message out to as many people as possible. They're doing this on purpose. The ruling class is doing this on purpose. They don't want us to succeed, because if we succeed, that means they have to lose out on just a tiny bit of the money and power they have. Everyone, please, you need to get informed, get involved. There's a major protest being organized in Ontario for September 25th about healthcare. If you can, participate in it. I've linked to the Ontario Health Coalition in the description box below. They're one of the primary organizers for this event. Please go check it out and see if there's a protest location happening near you. It is possible to change this system. If enough people stand up and fight back, it is possible to get the lives we want. We know the solutions. We need politicians in power willing to implement them. I don't want to leave everyone on this note. Instead, I'm going to close on a sweet story of how Frodo came to be in my life. I was getting ready to move into a new apartment, and it was a house that had been converted into 3 units, the basement, the main floor, and the upstairs, all with their own entrances and things of that sort. My friend was the super of this building, and so I was helping her doing the painting and some of the renovations to help cut back on my first month's rent. When I was there one of the evenings, we could hear the crying of a kitten outside. He let out such a cry that you knew this little guy was hungry, but we would go outside and try to find him, and we couldn't find him. The windows in my unit didn't have screens yet, and since this was the main floor, one night we had left food scraps in the main area, and the next morning they were gone. And that was right after, again, we heard this little mewing of a kitten. And so the following night, again, we could hear him crying outside, but we couldn't find him. So I purposely left food scraps in the main area so that he would crawl in and get them. And then the next morning, when I approached the apartment, we shut all the windows right away, and he was inside. He had broken into my apartment. And when I first saw him, he just tore into the kitchen area, and it was like he disappeared. And I had to search for a bit, but he had somehow gotten into the cupboards and then up into one of the kitchen drawers. And when I opened it, he was hiding in there, and just the sweetest look up at me, just pleading at me to not hurt him but help him. And as soon as he knew that he was safe with me, you could just tell how much he relaxed and how grateful he was to have a safe place to call home. He chose me. That's just one of the reasons why he's so special to me. So again, please, if you can help me cover his vet bills, it would mean the world to me. The PayPal link is in the description box below. You can send an e-transfer if you're Canadian. Purchasing items off of my wish list, like the cat food and cat litter, things that I'll need, will also help. And again, I'll keep everyone posted on Twitter and Blue Sky about an upcoming live stream, my very first live stream, as kind of a fundraiser to help get the money to cover these vet bills. I'm going to keep at it, making these videos no matter what. No one should have to do this. No one should have to go online and ask strangers for help to cover medical bills, whether it be for your pet or for a human. A better world is possible. I can't change the world, but together, we can. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.